Deleted levels in video games have always been a source of fascination for gamers, and one of the best known examples of them is the 4 deleted zones in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. There's Hidden Palace, Wood, and Dust Hill, and Genocide City are all listed on the level select screen of a publicly available Sonic 2 beta. Hidden Palace and Wood Zone can be partially played, and there is an old preview picture of what is to believe Dust Hill. Genocide City, however, is a mystery. Selecting it in the beta will simply load a blank screen where Sonic will instantly fall to his death. The lack of information and excessive threatening name would have made this zone one of the biggest mysteries in gaming. Recently I came across of what was claimed to be a more completed beta of Sonic 2, which had all the missing zones intact and fully playable. I was skeptical that such a thing would exist since most deleted levels are cut because they were never finished, but the download description claimed to be every zone that had been completed and removed for an unexplainable reason. Anyways, I started playing the beta. Aside from Tails not being present in the gameplay, the game initially seemed identical to the final version. After completing Emerald Hill, Chemical Plant Zone, however, I ended in Dust Hill. Dust Hill was pretty similar to the lone screenshot of it, a standard desert theme level. The oddly slow banjo music in the background was a little unsettling, but everything else felt just like a normal Sonic 2 zone. The Robotnik boss was his standard vehicle with a robotic arm holding 6 shooter guns, although they fired the standard energy bullets. After Dust Hill, I went through Aquatic Ruins, Casino Night, and Hilltop Zone with no difference from the zones in the final game. After Hilltop, I entered Wood Zone. Like Dust Hill, this fit in perfectly with the exception of some odd textures on carved wood patterns. They looked almost like faces. The music had a tribal feel to it. Robotnik was fought on a few floating platforms above a spiked pit. He used an axe attachment to his vehicle to eliminate platforms and attack you. In Mystic Cave Zone, I noticed the first difference from the final version besides the added levels. I collected the 7th Chaos Emerald in it and didn't get any message about Super Sonic, just a Sonic got 'em all message. I couldn't turn into Super Sonic either. After completing Oil Ocean, I went to Hidden Palace Zone. It was pretty much like the version in the well-known beta. Nothing unusual until I got to the end of the second act. Tails was tied to the Master Emerald, Robotnik was hovering above him, doing a laughing animation. Sonic turned into Super Sonic and ran past the Master Emerald, grabbing Tails right before Robotnik fired a gigantic beam at the Emerald, shattering it. I got a message saying Sonic saved Tails, and the screen faded. Metropolis Zone started. I could change into Super Sonic with 50 rings now, and Tails was following me. The rest of the game was just like the normal version. Genocide City Zone, however, never showed up. Confused about Genocide City's absence, I looked around online trying to find information about the version I had just played. I couldn't find anything, so I decided to try replay the game without collecting the Chaos Emeralds. Everything in the game was identical until I reached the end of Hidden Palace. Tails was still tied to the emerald, Robotnik was still above it. Sonic ran to the emerald to try and save Tails, but Robotnik fired an energy beam diagonally, knocking Sonic back. Robotnik then fired his huge beam at the Master Emerald, hitting Tails this time. I heard a loud, high-pitched shriek, which I guess was supposed to be a voice sample from Tails. When the beam went away, Tails and the Master Emerald were both gone without a trace. Robotnik did a laugh animation and flew away. Sonic did an animation I'd never seen before where he fell to the ground and just lay there. The words, "You couldn't save him," appeared on the screen and the level faded out. The next zone, as I expected, was Genocide City. When it loaded, it was a blank screen just like the well-known beta. Sonic fell to the bottom and died. I had 13 lives when I reached it, and this falling sequence repeated itself 12 times. When I was down to 1 life though, the level finally loaded. The best way I can describe the graphics is a combination of Chemical Plant and Metropolis Zone, with many objects in the background on fire. The music seemed like a remix of the title screen, but it played with nothing but deep bass tones. But there didn't seem to be any rings in the zone, so being down to my last life, I proceeded with caution. There didn't seem to be any enemies in the zone either. In their place were the sprites for the animals you free from badniks lying on the ground not moving. More and more animals appeared as I went deeper and deeper into the level. Soon the floors were covered with them. The only challenge in the level were some simple platforming sequences had to jump over gaps in the floor that led to a burning fire at the bottom of the screen. After going through what felt like a normal Sonic 2 level in length, I reached the goal sign. There was a small gap in the floor before the sign. After touching the sign, instead of running to the ring like he usually does, Sonic turned around and looked in the direction of the gap for about 30 seconds, and ran into it, falling to his death. I got the game over screen. I had forgotten that I had earned a couple continues earlier in the game. I selected the yes continue option, but I heard an ear-splitting buzzing noises, like games you do when you choose a menu option you aren't allowed to do. I tried a couple more times, but the game clearly wasn't going to let me continue. I'd finally chosen no and got a game over screen, similar to the bad ending in Sonic 1, except instead of juggling emeralds, Robotnik was juggling the bodies of the creatures you freed from badniks. I had to reset the game to get away from that screen. I was disturbed by what I had just seen. This certainly explained why Genocide City had been removed from the game, but I couldn't imagine what Sega even considered doing something like this. Even though I had already played the game and gotten the good ending, I felt like I had to do it again. That I couldn't leave my game the way my second playthrough had ended. So for the third time in one day, I started the Sonic 2 beta. The first oddity was the title screen. Tails was gone from it. Sonic didn't seem to notice. There was just a bit of empty space to circle both of them were coming out of. I started the game, and it seemed normal until I collected 50 rings and entered the first bonus stage. Instead of rings coming at me, wave after wave of bombs appeared. I dodged them as long as I could, but finally got hit. Instead of doing his ring losing animation, the Sonic 3D model did a death animation, and the bonus stage ended. The result screen listed 0 for every stat, but the message at the top was different, in solid black text. You can't bring back the dead. Getting really scared at this point, I collected another 50 rings as I possibly could, but the bonus stage I entered was identical, ending with the same message. I deleted the beta from my computer and downloaded it again so I could get the good ending again. I nearly screamed when I saw the title screen without Tails on it, and as I feared, got the impossible bonus stage again, but this time the message was different when I lost. You can't reverse your mistakes. I was terrified and was clinging to the irrational belief that I could just get the good ending again. Everything would be better. I went on a different computer, downloaded the beta, and got the same title screen. Acting on baseless instinct by this point, I went into the bonus stage again. The message this time was, you have to accept your mistakes. I deleted the beta from this computer as well. I realized that the computers were sharing an internet source and that there was a possibility this was some kind of trick or virus. I went to my trusty Genesis, took out the Sonic 2 card I had for 17 years. If I could see Tails in it, I knew everything would be okay, but I still haven't gotten up to the courage to risk it. Every rational part of me knows the beta couldn't possibly affect my cartridge, but I'm too afraid. Afraid of what will happen if I see the title screen without Tails in it. I dream about it every night, but I know that it could get so much worse. It had been about 2 weeks since I played the Sonic 2 beta. I kept dreaming about it every night. The dreams just kept getting worse and worse. I was waking up from them covered in sweat. I couldn't get back to sleep. I was too tired to function during the day. I knew I had to try my Sonic 2 cart. It was the only way I could move past this. However, I was too afraid to try it alone. So I invited a friend over. Not wanting him to think I was crazy, I casually suggested playing Sonic 2. I turned on my Genesis and heard the familiar Sega voice, and then the title screen came up. Tails wasn't in it. I had screamed at the top of my lungs. My friend was understandably startled, and asked what the hell was wrong with me. Barely holding back tears, I blurted out the whole story in a barely coherent babble. When I was finished, my friend just stared at me for a few seconds and spoke. What are you on about? Tails was on the title screen just like he always is. I wasn't able to respond. Somehow this made things seem even worse. Now I wasn't even sure if it was really some kind of curse or I had just gone crazy. I sat in complete silence for a few minutes. My friend made up an excuse about having to be somewhere and left. Can't blame him. After the initial shock wore off, I tried playing the game. Tails wasn't there, and the bonus round was, again, impossible. I got this message after losing. You can't run from your failures. I had absolutely no idea what to do at this point. I considered myself checking into a mental institution, but that last message about running from my problems made me afraid to ignore the game. Thinking about the messages, I decided I only had one option. Even if nothing good was likely to come of it, I had to play through the game again. I decided to do the next playthrough on my Genesis holding a controller. Being in front of a TV using a system from my childhood made me feel safer than playing that damn beta. Aside from the lack of Tails and bonus stages, the first two zones were completely normal. I wasn't surprised at this point when Dust Hill came up after Chemical Plant, but after going a few screens into it and I saw something new in the background. Tails hanging from a noose on one of those old West style stands you see in Hangman games. This image would repeat itself in the background every few screens worth of scrolling. When I got to where I had fought the boss before, there was another image of Tails being hanged in the background. Robotnik wasn't in his special boss vehicle, just the generic Sonic 2 floating vehicle he makes his escapes on. He did a laughing animation and flew away. There was no victory screen, no results. It just faded out and went to aquatic ruins. The zones that were in the final game were normal, but when I got to Wood Zone, there was another change. I noticed textures in the wood that looked like faces on my first two playthroughs, but now they were much clearer. Tails' face and a twisted scream. These were carved everywhere in the level when I got to the boss. The biggest carving yet was in the background. Again, Robotnik just did a laugh animation and left, causing the screen to fade out. Mystic Cave and Oil Ocean were normal. Then I reached Hidden Palace. Hidden Palace had changed a lot more than Dust Hill and Wood Zone. There was no music, no enemies, no rings, nothing. I walked through 2 empty levels until I reached the part where Robotnik had killed Tails. Nothing was there, not the Master Emerald. Sure as hell, Tails wasn't there, or even Robotnik. Sonic went into this despair pose from when Tails had been killed, and stayed like that for 30 seconds, until the screen had faded out. Genocide City started, and it was very different. This time it was filled with enemies, demon-shaped robots covered in fire. There was no way to kill them. The level was still lacking rings. There was also lava spouts shooting up from the bottom of the screen, and fireballs falling from the sky. This was one of the hardest platforming levels that I have ever played, but after several deaths, I made it to the goal sign, which still had the floor gap next to it. I touched the sign, and this time I did the trick that lets you control Sonic during the end of the level score tally. It worked. Sonic didn't run into the pit. The victory message was in that familiar black text. It won't bring him back. The screen faded, and Genocide City Act 2 appeared. The graphics were different here. The fire had burned out, replaced by ashes and soot covered in ruins of the background. Again, there was no enemies. The corpse of the animals that had become badniks had returned, but this time they were all laying in a pile of ash. Also, like my first visit to the zone, the only obstacles were small gaps in the floor. This time they looked like holes that had been burned through it. I reached the end of the zone. Robotnik was in his vehicle at the right end of the screen, about level with Sonic. He didn't move, so I attacked him. He made the usual flashing damage animation, so I kept doing it. After 8 hits, he still hadn't reacted or been defeated. But the black text appeared again. What do you hope to accomplish? Not sure what else to do. I kept attacking Robotnik after a few more hits. Killing him won't bring back your friend. I continued to attack Robotnik. The message changed every few hits. You let him die. That will never change. Revenge won't soothe you forever. Like the past, he is lost forever. You can't get your innocence back. Your enemy's blood can't wash away your mistakes. You have no one to blame but yourself. Take responsibility for your failure. You are attacking the wrong person. After getting all these messages, I got an idea what the game wanted me to do. Instead of jumping at Robotnik to attack him, I walked into him, causing Sonic to take damage and die. One final message came up. You have paid the only acceptable price. And the game reset. Title screen came up. This time Sonic wasn't there either. There was just an empty circle. I started the game and the screen the common beta sends you to when you select Genocide City appeared. There was no timer, no Sonic falling to his death, no rings, no badniks, nothing. Turned the system on and off again and tried again. Same thing happened. Tried the beta on my computer, same thing, same screen, same result. Tried another Sonic game, it was the same. Everything in the series had erased. I hadn't tried to play a Sonic game in quite a while now, but I see that one screen every time I close my eyes. And just like that, another creepypasta is added to the list, and a Sonic the Hedgehog one, which is a first for the channel. Now, before I could even begin talking about this story, I do want to mention is that yes, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 did have a bunch of cut levels. These levels were cut due to time constraints, as Sega wanted this game out for the holiday season. And the levels that were cut were Hidden Palace Zone, Genocide City or Cyber City, Wood Zone, Rock Zone, Dust Hill Zone or Sand Shower Zone, Winter Zone, Secret Jungle Zone, Emerald Isle Zone, Ocean Wind Zone, and Madness Mountain Zone. Now, out of all these levels, Hidden Palace was the only one that was actually later added to future re-releases of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, as that level had some of its data still intact in some of the prototypes. And also, Genocide City is technically in the game, but under a different name, as Metropolis Zone 3 is actually what Genocide City was. The whole layout is Genocide City, just added to Metropolis Zone. As to why they, cut it out and replaced it, I don't know. But yeah, and other than those two levels, no other level has been added to the games. However, there have been some inspiration taken from these levels in other games, but these levels have never been reintroduced or reincorporated in any other Sonic the Hedgehog 2 re-releases. First off, the story is split into two parts. The part before, the main character plays Sonic 2 is actually where the story ends. And I want to talk about that first part. That first part is great. It is amazing. It is realistic. There's no supernatural explanation. It is all possible in the realm of possibility, realism. Because, he gives out an explanation that maybe could be a virus, malware, someone could hack, someone could trace the IP address and sort of force it. And not to mention, there are games out there, and I believe it's Undertale actually, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, where if you do the bad ending, you can't really get the good ending, which kind of locks you out, or locks you in with the bad ending. And so, this whole idea of, getting the bad ending isn't really too far from possibility. And also, not to mention, this is a hack. This isn't really the original game, per se. Is it possible that it could be one of the prototypes, that Sega made? Yes, and maybe this is the reason, or the true reason, why the levels were cut from the game. Genocide City could have been the level as to why all these levels were cut. It could be, or it could be not. This all could be a fan creation. And that's what I like, is that it presents that possibility that, yes, this could be a hack, fan made game, but this could also be one of Sega's, darkest secrets as to why they never released those levels. However, all that is thrown out the window in the second part. The second part just ruins that whole idea. At the beginning of the second part, the main character plays Sonic 2 with a friend, and what do you know, the cliche happens where his friend can see tails on the screen, yet the main character can't. Then, of course, because the main character sacrificed Sonic to sort of redeem himself in a way, now we can't play a single Sonic game because Sonic does not show up, and only he can't see Sonic because of that, which, I'm sorry, but that just ruins the whole story, and it went into that unnecessary paranormal bullshit after it was setting itself up to be in the realm of possibility in the previous part. So yeah, honestly, don't bother reading the second part. Not only does it ruin the story, but it also makes the character look like a complete puss, as in the story he says that, he's scared of it, and that he's been shaken to the core and it ruined gaming forever, or at least Sonic games forever, and that he's never going to be the same. I'm like, bro, it's just one experience. It didn't kill you. And not to mention, also at the beginning of the story, he says how he's got nightmares of this. And not to mention, it gets with that whole, cliche, cringe, philosophical, like, oh, you're the reason why he died. Your curiosity killed him, or, bullshit like that. And I'm sorry, that just ruins it. So, honestly, the first part, I recommend just reading. Don't even bother reading the second part. The first part is good. It's chef's kiss. It's a good little short story, and I recommend reading only that part. Don't even bother reading the second part as it ruins it. So, yeah. Link will be in the description of the original story. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to check out my other videos along with my other social medias. And with that being said, I am out.